Well, the best of Tim David, and yet he himself says that perhaps they're a bit short. 177 for Mumbai after a terrific start that was given by Rohit Sharma and Ishan Kishan. They just lost their way, lost 4 for 57 in those middle overs. And a very curious innings from Kieron Pollard, which we'll look back upon and see what that 177 looks like with Ian Bishop and Dan Vettori on Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricket Info T20 timeout powered by IQ 9 5G. Bish said 180 at the pre-show. They're 3 short of that. Now, Bish, would they still take 177 or have they fallen a few short after the start they had?
They can work with it, but ideally when you're 97 for 1 after 10 overs, you are looking at more than 200 at the end. So they'll feel they left some runs out there, or it was taken from them through the excellence of Pradeep Sawan. I think from 11 overs onwards, Rashid Khan and other contributors, Alzari Joseph at the back end of the innings. So I would still think they should perhaps have been looking at that 200.
Yeah, Dan, let's get your first. That's what a curious inning. 74 of 7. We thought Mumbai was struggling at the top. And then the guys that we thought were in better form, Suryakumar Yadav, Tilak Verma still struck at 130. But Kieron Pollard, that's just slowed the innings down.
Obviously, he was trying to set himself up for the back end. I think the other thing is the wicket looks amazing. I think the way that Rohit struck it early on, and obviously Ishan Kishan, it was nice to see those guys, particularly Rohit Sharma, play the innings that we're so used to, hitting through the line for sixes and then carving through the offside. So that was very impressive, and then the handoff to Tim David. So there were 3 guys that we really wanted to see all season come off, and they did. It's unfortunate for Mumbai, but Rashid Khan bowled an exceptional over to Pollard. But once again, we just talk about intent, and I suppose it wasn't quite there. But to be fair to Pollard, that's the way he plays. He gets through 10 to 12 balls and then expects to catch up in the end, and it hasn't quite come off this season.
It just looks so bad though right now. 4 of 14 for Kieron Pollard. And I mean, is it fair to say that this formula that he tried over the years is not as successful anymore?
Well, I think this is Bish's point that he's made a few times around the catch-up, that the catch-up inevitably doesn't work because bowlers are good enough. You put pressure on either your partner or you put pressure on yourself to do something special at the back end, and you can't always come back to something special. So I think Pollard, we always give him the benefit of the doubt because he's been such a class performer for such an extended period of time, not only for Mumbai but around the world, and we just sit there and wait. But when it doesn't come off, obviously 4 of 14 doesn't help a team.
Bish, I know you've made this catch-up point, but do you temper that a little to certain types of players? We saw even Rovman Powell, who was striking at a run a ball in the game yesterday, and then we saw the best of him. Pollard, though, on the other hand, 4 of 14. Is it fair to say that his powers are on the wane at this point in his career?
Yeah, this season hasn't gone anywhere near as he would have. He's struggling. He really is struggling. I think just watching him, he's been trying everything, and there are weaknesses there that are coming through. Every time he comes in, someone holds back a wrist spinner of some kind to bowl to him, and it's not the first time this season. So he's either got to try to reinvent his game, because he's been given a really long run this season without producing by Mumbai Indians. So he's got to try to reinvent himself. And just on the catch-up has a basic level. I don't like it, but the minimum you want to go at as a runner ball. You know who's a good example, guys, of someone who plays with a lot of skill at the start? Rinku Singh. 3 times he's batted this season. He hasn't shown any boundary hitting in his first 10 balls, but he's never gone, from what I can see, below a minimum of a runner ball. 4 of 14, 14 of 24, that sort of thing. You can't do that. That is too much gambling.
Yeah, I mean, even before Rashid Khan, there's one that he left of Lockie Ferguson. I just wonder if that's the kind of thing which isn't quite, I would say acceptable, but certainly not ideal, especially with the situation of the game.
I suppose trying to think of it through Pollard's eyes, that him in the past has been able to do that, and maybe you want to walk into a game and say, right, I'm going to play how I'd have at my best, and that may be leaving a ball, that may be trying to walk at a batsman, that may be trying to get through Rashid Khan as their best player. So sometimes when you're out of form, you potentially you potentially look at yourself at your absolute best and try to replicate that. But I think Bish is right, that it's at the stage where you maybe just need to try something a little bit different to get the momentum going in your favour rather than trying to catch up.
Of all the games that we discussed, whether we're batting more, Bish, this time he's walked in the 12th over and Tim David's walked in the 15th. I mean, would it work if they turn that around? Maybe Pollard comes in later and just goes for it?
Well, first of all, Tim David. I mean,
Yeah.
come on, the guy played 2 games, and everybody that I know of in the circles that I work's asking, where is the guy when he wasn't playing? And he's shown in these 2 games now why he should have been playing. So Mumbai Indians have to reflect and say, we didn't quite get it right with some of the selections that we made in the first half of the tournament, right? So I think Tim David could be another one of those guys. And he said himself a while back, man, he would love to bat up the order. He really would love a chance to go in early, set himself, and he's young. He is heading towards the prime of his career. So please let us not pigeonhole this guy. Let him blossom into something dynamic.
Yeah, and we've seen him bat 4 or 5 in leagues that he's been successful 4, even 3 at times. But Tim David seems like he's got a really raw deal now from the Mumbai Indians. I mean, surely someone in that management has got this wrong.
Do not label someone a closer. That's what we're learning from this IPL. Look, I mean, that's such an impressive innings. I mean, it's Shami, it's Lockie Ferguson. It all looks easy. Those shots down the ground, they're not one ball did he slog. It's just a big, tall man using his strength and using his ability, and it's so impressive to watch. 44 off 21. When they're under a little bit of pressure, I think the reflection will be the 2 overseas early on the season. And obviously there was some injury and illness, but I don't think Tim David was injured or ill at the time. So it'd be fascinating to understand why it came to that decision to leave a player of his class out when they had 2 available spots.
And when he just had 2 games. I'm trying to think of whether this is an even more extraordinary innings because of how he's been managed. The fact that he was sitting out even when there were 2 overseas. This is perhaps the worst possible management for a new player in a big setup. It's almost destined for you to fail. Now suddenly there's a different Tim David story that will build over the back of these last 2 or 3 innings.
And it's very, very happy for him. But I feel like he's done this before in other leagues where he might have been sat out for a little bit because he's almost unheralded in terms of the fact that he hasn't played international cricket, or apart from Singapore, sorry. So he's always the one that misses out. But now he's just putting together this resume where he should be one of your first selected. I mean, Australia are obviously going to look very hard at him with the power that he has. So there's a lot going on to be impressed with. But this innings in particular, I mean, you just don't see that clean hitting and with such pure shot making at the back end of an IPL innings.
Is this I'm trying to think of it specifically, but is this the biggest mistake that Mumbai have made? Almost obvious error that they've made. I can't think of one where they've given a guy 2 games, not played him at all. He's come back and he's capable of this. I mean, this seems like it's so unlike Mumbai, but is this one of the sort of obvious errors that stand out in a T20 franchise, or can you not put it in black and white?
No, I don't think you can ever put anything in black and white because they obviously have they have the inner workings. They understand why the decision was made at the time, and to be fair to Mahela and the think tank, they've made so many good decisions over the years that you'd think that they've earned the benefit of the doubt because of that. But tough after such a losing season, and then to see a performance like that. So rightly questions be asked, but I think with the collective intellect of that group, I'm sure they'd have an answer we could understand.
Bish, would you put it in any firmer terms, especially when the team was losing? It's not like they were getting the job done either.
Yes, they would have had their reasons for it, but when you hear the cry, look, I've had the benefit, like many of us, not just myself, to see Tim David in the Caribbean playing for the St. Lucia Kings. I think it was in the Caribbean Premier League, in really good touch, phenomenal ball striking. PSL, phenomenal ball striking. So he came to this IPL off the back of very, very good form. And really should have been given that chance to prove himself, particularly as well as Dan has reminded us how much it cost to get him. So they have to hold their hands up and say, we get a lot right, we didn't get this one right.
Okay, fair enough. Right. Let's just look ahead to this chase now. 178, kind of score that you expect the Titans to chase?
I think the surface indicates that you would think they have a chance, but I think we have to give credit that 180 is still a tough chase. It's 9 and over. Pressure can be put on. We've talked about Shubman Gill being out of form. Hardik hasn't scored for a few games, and they've relied heavily on that middle order. So I think it's going to be a tough chase, but it'll take one batsman in that top four to be able to see them through.
What are you expecting from Karthikeya Kumar? With the sort of start that he had, this is, I guess, a tougher sort of surface for him.
Yeah, I think this is a real challenge for him on this surface. We thought the last one at Wankhede was just had a little bit in it, it held up. You saw a scratch innings from Josh Butler as well as the rest of the RR batsmen. So this will be a test of his variations and whether they can hold up against a quality batting lineup.
Bish, gut feel on this one? Titans to chase it?
I don't know if it's my heart or my head. Maybe it's my heart and emotion speaking, edging towards the blue. But 180 is the lowest score that has been successfully defended on this ground this season. So I think it'll be a good contest. We forgot Rashid Khan, brilliant tonight, given all the travails that we spoke about.
Yeah. Let's spend a moment on him. It's fair enough because he went for 13. Not a bad over, that power play over. But this was the best of Rashid Khan.
Yep, and it was purely length, and it was just had that little bit of energy on the ball. So I think the fact that he was able to get top spin and then his almost leg spin as well, you could just see the revs on the ball. And I mean, it seems sacrilege to say, but he almost felt like he was floating a few balls up in previous games where this was all energy, this was all skill, this was all length. It was him at his best.
Yeah, I mean, you saw him got a lot of airtime today, and rightly so. Bish, dynamic in the field. Active with the review, even tried something I've never seen before. Silly way to stop a single or stake one of his own bowling. But yeah, that's the best of Rashid Khan.
Yeah, I think the two things that Daniel said there, you could actually see it manifesting itself in that there was that energy on the ball and the length was absolutely critical. That ball to Pollard, the length, and Pollard is a tall man, absolutely superb.
All right, Bish's dinner's here, so is ours. So we're going to wrap this up. Thank you very much. We will pick up the chat at the end of the game on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by Eco9 5G, to see if it is Mumbai that have won 2 in a row, and the Titans have lost 2 in a row, or if that was just that one-off and Hardik Pandya and Shubman Gill and the rest can chase this down. We'll see you at the end of the game.